I think the most important thing for people to understand when they read my book, if there's one thing that I would ask people to focus on, it's this. Don't take the question on the front of the book for granted. People look at the title of the book and will walk right past it because they assume that they know the answer. They assume that they know the answer. I think that the people who most influenced my writing are some of the pastors who have been very influential in my life. My writing is really about things that I've learned in church over the last maybe 10 years or so of my life. And what I discovered is that so much of what I have learned in other places, in other churches, and through self-study earlier on in my Christian walk, I discovered that I really had not been taught a lot of truth about the Word of God. Probably the way that I started writing nonfiction was through the stories of my own life, the hard knocks that I took in life, and challenges that I've had, struggles that I've been through, so many things that I've lived through. What I discovered is that the only way for me to get through that healing process was to really dig into the Word of God and to find out what the Bible said about some of the issues that I was facing. And when I found out what the Word of God says about the problems that I was having, the cause of those problems, the solutions to my problems, I came to this great realization that, oh my gosh, it's not just about writing the stories of my life, but what's really most important is sharing with other people how significantly the practical application of biblical truth can change our lives. Probably the most significant time in my life that I think about, and it is a time in my life when I was very ill and I wasn't able to do many of the things that I had done for myself, all of my life, taking care of myself, my health, taking care of my children. I really found myself in a difficult position. I was sick, I was not able to work, I had a hard time taking care of myself physically, and I was a single mom with responsibility for 2 children and no real help. And God really just sustained me and took me through a process of not only saving me and taking care of me, but what's so important to me about that time in my life is that He helped me to take care of my children. I've led a lot of people to Christ, and I remember some of them, and others I don't really remember. They don't necessarily stand out, each person individually in my mind. But there are 2 people in particular whose lives have been absolutely changed because of the investment that I made in them and in terms of leading them into the saving knowledge of Jesus Christ. And those 2 people are my children. Most people know that I love God. Most people know that I love children. What most people don't know is that I absolutely love animals, and I have 2 pets. I have 2 little Yorkies. They are 2 of my favorite. I call them people. They're not people, but they're 2 of my favorite people in the world, and they are a big part of my life. And next to reading the Word of God and enjoying people and enjoying children, I love watching videos, funny animal videos. I read a story in 2 Kings, chapters 22 and 23, and the story is about a king whose name is Josiah. Josiah sent someone, a scribe, to the house of God to collect money, and when he sent the scribe there to collect the money, what he discovered is that the high priest shared with him that he had found the book of the law that had been lost in the house of God. So imagine that, just imagine that the high priest in the house of God stumbled upon a book that had been lost. It is the Bible. he took that book, the scribe took the book back to the king, and he read the king the book of the law, and the king tore his clothes, he wept, he was deeply grieved, because he understood that the curses that the people were suffering and living under were a direct result of their failure to know, hear, believe, and obey the word of God. They didn't know the word of God, and so the people were suffering as a result of that terribly. So the question that I asked is, how is it possible? How is it possible that the high priest could have been holding service every week, however often they were holding services? The lower level priests were teaching, the people were coming, they were collecting money. There was a doorkeeper who was responsible for, keeping the door. So they had church as usual, but what were they teaching God's people? What were they teaching God's people? They had lost the book. Well, the Bible tells us that there's nothing new under the sun. Everything that has happened will be again. Everything that has happened just repeats itself. And so when I started to study the Word of God under some of the people that have been significant in my life, pastors and teachers, mentors, I started to realize that so many of the things that I've been taught in the past were not true. And the only way that that has happened is that the church has lost the book again.